Hi, this is Deborah Sexton.
Dave Garrick with Atlas Screen Supply.
Lon Winters with Graphic Elephants.
You are listening to the Two Regular Guys podcast.
Hosted by Terry Combs and Aaron Montgomery.
All right. Well, welcome to the show tonight. It is this afternoon, I should say. It's Friday, April 27th, 2018. I'm Terry Combs with Equipment Zone, and you can also find me at terrycombs.com.
And I'm Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me over at aaronmontgomery.info. We're recording this show, actually, so we'll cut Terry some slack there. But
my tonight, my this afternoon, my this
whatever.
morning.
Yeah. Because the three of us are actually going to be at DAC Chicagoland on Friday, and so we brought Erich Campbell in here with us, and welcome in, Erich.
Thanks, Aaron. You can find me over at erichcampbell.com with my embroidery content and all over social media and everywhere else, making noise for the folks at DecoNetwork. But today is a different thing. Today we have a topic starting, and it's going over the ins and outs of fulfillment and outsourcing. We're going to look at this from both sides of the fence. We're going to cover the point of view both the fulfillment house that's offering that wholesale outsourcing for decorators, as well as how custom decorators can best use those fulfillment shops. But first, I think we have some traditional industry news.
Absolutely. First thing I want to mention is today, Friday, the 27th, is the deadline. If you want to be a presenter for the ISS shows in 2019, this all gets scheduled way early. So if you want to have something to say at the show, today's the day, and we'll have a link on our website where you can click to do that application. The next thing I want to mention was, and this is something, Aaron, that you and I briefly spoke about last week. It's a little more firmed up right now that Equipment Zone has officially announced the first ever DTG Academy on June 2nd and 3rd. This is going to be a complete business course for DTG owners and people thinking about getting into the business. So it's a 2-day all-inclusive course. There's going to be hands-on with the equipment. There's going to be a lot of talk about pricing, a lot of talk about selling your product, a lot of talk about how to create your artwork. So some of the speakers are going to be, of course, myself. Dane Clement is going to be there. Jay Bassell, Matt Rome with Epson, and assorted Epson staff. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And so go to equipmentzone.com and you can get some more information. You can sign up for the class.
Awesome. Well, that sounds like a great event. Well, I wanted to share a couple of bits that I found over at sgia.org, our title sponsor, which we'll chat about in just a little bit. But the Skills USA, we've talked about it here. In fact, we had Johnny Schell on the show to cover what's going on over there, and they've got a link out there. They're supporting the next generation of printers. So they said we're always looking for prizes for the student winners in both the screen printing and graphics imaging sublimation competitions. So if you'd like to donate prizes to the student winners, they've got a form, and real super easy form to fill out, and send it in over to Aaron Nuss over there at SGIA. We'll have a link to that form, not only on our Facebook page, but in the show notes and whatnot. So when we talked to Johnny, we said we wanted to get that up to about 10,000. I can't even remember what the number was now off the top of my head. But
yeah, I know that the plan was to get some higher dollar contributions going there, because you had mentioned, Aaron, that one of the categories they're giving away a Harley Davidson. So
yeah,
we need to get a little more comparable in our prize giving.
Yeah, exactly. So we're calling everybody out, step up, and they've got a great list of the people that have already supported them, including the two regular guys. We're going to partake in giving out free podcasts for everybody.
Come on! But it's exclusive. It's exclusive.
we're gonna give them some swag, some two regular guys swag.
The only people that that can get our podcast are people who have internet. So everybody else, you're out of luck.
Yeah, exactly. Another quick note there from SGA. April 30th is the SGA scholarship deadline. So you need to complete your submissions for that. There are students out there looking for some scholarship opportunities. And then as all those teachers out there listening, you want to enter your students' best work in the ASDPT Tom Fresca Student Printing Competition by the 1st of September. So you got a little bit of time, but need to start getting that together. And the entries will be displayed on the 2018 SJA Expo floor in October in Las Vegas. So the best of show winner for the student competition receives $500 towards their education and another $500 going towards their schools. So some great stuff for our next generation out there, and need to make sure we support them. Get on over to sgia.org and check all that out. But again, we'll have links on our show notes page as well as in our Facebook page. Eric, what about you?
I used to having a third person on here with us.
Yeah, right. Now it's getting complicated. No, honestly, I'm just really glad to hear all the stuff that SGI is doing for the next generation coming up. So it's good to hear all this stuff going on in the industry. And honestly, we've got so much happening personally. And between the three of the folks here presenting to you folks, we're going to have to come back around to the end of the show and come back to it, because I know we've got a lot of events to talk about at the end of the show.
We do indeed.
Definitely some great stuff. Well, again, speaking of the end of the show, I want to make sure everybody stays tuned for our very popular 5 things. And it's Terry's week. He's going to bring them to us this week, giving us food for thought on the 5 levels of training in your business. Terry's always a great resource for training. I love a lot of the stuff that he's done over the years, the 5215, all that kind of great stuff. So this is going to be a good one. I'm excited, Terry. Yeah, no pressure.
If anybody sees me writing on my junior legal yellow legal pad, that means I'm writing them as we do the show. No, they're actually arguing this. Hey, we do appreciate everybody listening, though, and we are very pleased to bring the show every week since February 2013. This is our 6th season. And we always try to avoid the rants and the lecturing and the selling, but we would love to hear, have you visit our website. It's 2 regularguys.com. Check out the show notes whenever we talk about any type of event like the SGIA events that Aaron was just talking about. All those links will be on the website, so an easy resource for you. We are always looking for suggestions for future shows, and you can let us know about that on our Contact Us page at 2 regularguys.com. Also, we're all over social media. We're all about social media. So, again, you can find us at 2 regular guys. If you are watching this on Facebook Live, we would love to hear your comments and your questions, your insights, and we'll try to dig into those while we're broadcasting the show. But before we go any further, guys, let's recognize our title sponsor, who for the whole year of 2018, the Specialty Graphic Imaging Association, SGIA.
Yeah, they've been working with them to come up with some new content. They've had a little turnover there in their marketing department, so we're still, and they've got a ton of stuff going on with, I think it's FP3, and there's all these different acronyms of different events that they're involved in. So check them out on social media for sure. But if you just go over to sga.org/garments, in fact, let's pop that up on the screen here real quick, and so you can take a look and he get everything, your webinar links and the SJ Journal graphic edition up here, all sorts of great stuff. So again, get over there, check them out, and tell them you heard about them on the 2 Regular Guys, so they can know where all these great printers are coming from. And I think that's so. Yes, I will push them harder, and hopefully next week we'll be back to the
other actual commercial
opportunities. But
guys, for the first 10 minutes of the show, I believe it's been all SGA all the time. So
I think we did okay.
I think we've covered their commercial pretty well. But hey, before we actually start having our conversation together here live, let's hear a clip from our trip to ThreadX. It was Erich Campbell. It was Marshall Atkinson. It's Aaron Montgomery and myself driving from Phoenix to Palm Springs a couple of months ago. We were decorators in cars having cookies.
Oh, those cookies were really good too.
Those were really awesome.
Here we go.
This is true. I wanted to go back and cover something a little bit that Marshall brought up early on in that last segment of the conversation there, where he's talking about the outsourcing, the contract work, that type of thing. I think that's a really interesting concept of things that are happening, and one of the reasons I think you're going to see more and more of that, as well as what Marshall was talking about, is the fact that because things are changing so rapidly, businesses are really going to have to focus on their area, and be specialized and be really tight into their niche. You can't be everything you have to be the best in your area. And honestly, a lot of the printers and people that we've talked to and sold stuff to over the years and all this other stuff, you kind of wonder, are they actually going to make it in business? They have certain areas that they do very well, but they couldn't figure out how to turn on a direct-to-garment printer. And what? Where does this go? You have to plug it into an outlet. So that's something I think is kind of interesting with the contract situation. So they'll be able to focus, like Marshall said, everybody's got their own website now, or an Etsy store, or whatever the case may be. But a lot of those people are not ever actually touching the products. I mean, that happens with sublimation and things like that. So if anybody else has any other thoughts on that?
Just think about the process, right? So I know we're all printers or embroiderers, we're all manufacturers, or however you want to label us, right? But the frictionless environment of the future is you're selling stuff online, because that's where everything is going. It's going online. You've heard of the retail apocalypse. It's going online. It's not in a store. But what happens is, if I can order this design and you have a partner that's going to print the shirt for you, okay, your whole deal is just really, I'm making sure that transaction works. I set it up. I've got the artwork. I'm handling that handshake with the printer, and then I'm done, and I'm reaping the benefits with the money. That's the future in this industry, and especially for printing. Embroidery is probably a little different, but I just think that you're going to see a lot of that, and I don't know where that's going to go, and I think it's really going to be interesting. It's all going to be about marketing and how you're driving eyeballs to the website, which is, again, business plan, marketing plan. What are you doing?
Well, and I think, the other thing that's interesting about this, we're talking about the front end side of it. We're talking about the changes.
I wanted to go back and...
All right. So I cut you off there, Eric. The wrong button was pushed. But let's dive in. We're just going to make you start talking again about what you were talking about. You can remember that from like a month ago, right? Oh, and I guess I should unmute you guys too. That'll be even better. Oh. Wow. Big
so
faux pas there.
Are we there now?
All
right.
All right.
No, I think I can remember enough.
Well, so Eric,
sure.
But let's just kind of preface that a little bit, and we can come back and play the rest a little bit if you want. But we're talking about the outsourcing, we're talking about the fulfillment. So maybe start us off there, and then we can come back in and get, because that little clip is interesting, because if you didn't listen to the Decorators in Cars with Cookies Part 1, you probably missed a lot of the bits and pieces around that. So you need to make sure you go back to our website and check that out. But explain to us what we're talking about when we talk fulfillment and outsourcing.
Well, we're talking about fulfillment. That's really what Marshall described, where we're talking about handing off a job, probably from the quote level, off to someone who is going to take the artwork. Generally, you may want to have artwork and that stuff approved ahead of time, but you're going to hand this off to someone who's literally going to take it, process it, do the printing, whatever decoration. I mean, Marshall said embroidery might be different. Embroidery too. There's tons of contract embroiderers. They're going to handle all that. And if we're talking about fulfillment, though, it really should include the shipping. That's where we're talking about shipping direct. That's what, at least that's the difference. When I'm talking about the difference between fulfillment and outsourcing, at least when I'm talking about it with people, generally fulfillment means we're going to talk about the packaging, the shipping, all the way to either to an end user generally, or to companies, to whoever that end result is, whoever's getting that, you're handing it off and pretty much everything is done, everything is finished and off to that last person. That's a full handoff. Outsourcing,
Eric, and we're going to do this.
It's going to be happening all night.
I did that the whole time with Marshall too. There are three of us. I'm not good with names. So. But I just wanted to throw in there too, warehousing is a big part of that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Warehousing, especially if you're talking about fulfillment the way we're seeing it develop now. It's also, warehousing of product. It's everything down the tool chain between taking an order and getting it to that final person. That's really, that's fulfillment. And absolutely warehousing. And to a degree, it can even include some of the infrastructure on the back end. It can include the website stuff. It can include some of that too, depending on what you're doing. Now, it depends on what level of fulfillment you're expecting. Because some people, it's down to the point of, I'm going to find a resource. I'm going to find a group that I'm going to market to. You're going to provide every tool, including the website, including the front ends, all the way through shipping the thing out.
Right. I'm going to send you a name and address. You do everything.
Or like, I'm going to manage the front end, but nothing after that. Like, I'll manage the graphics, I'll manage the stuff that's on the front end, but everything after that goes to another shop. Whereas like outsourcing, it's more, I'm going to send out a job for printing. It comes back to me. I'm going to QC it and give it to my customer. I'm just having a process done, or at least that's when I say outsourcing, that's usually what I mean. Yeah. And it could also be other tasks. It doesn't have to be decorating. Usually when we talk about it, we're talking about offloading decorating that we can't handle, or say, and this is one of the good sides of it, because when we talk about good sides, bad sides to outsourcing, it could also be decorating that you don't have the tools, techniques, or know how to do, and you can outsource it. Or it can be a portion of it. It can be art can be outsourced. Digitizing is frequently outsourced in the embroidery community. It's things that you're going to send out for work, and it's coming back to you. You're still in control of the final fulfillment. You're still in control of the customer relation. And in fact, you're generally in control of the customer relations with fulfillment too, but you may just have somebody all the way white label, no interaction of their own, no branding of their own, ship something directly to a customer. At least that's what I'm saying with the difference between fulfillment and outsourcing.
Yeah.
Well, I've done both. And fulfillment, by the way, anybody who's looking for a niche in the marketplace, the opportunities there have always been great, and they're getting bigger and they're getting better, and so that can be an incredible business to be in, and no matter what type of decorator you are or what type of business you are, but the outsourcing, Eric specifically, I've had good experiences. I've had horrendous experiences with outsourcing. So let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the downsides to outsourcing, and what are the couple of things we can do to lessen the risk of pain?
No, you absolutely have to do a little damage control, and honestly, it's preparation. Preparation's really where it's at. It's first establishing a relationship with a decorator or whoever this is. If it's decoration, which is primarily what we're talking about, establishing that repertoire or the rapport with the decorator, so that you know what they can do. You've tested with them. You've gone ahead, and you have to have skin in the game. You're going to have a job done with them, or do a test job or something.
Sure.
I wouldn't expect to do that free. Some people want to have free samples from folks. I think it's worth the money to go out there and pay someone so that there's skin in the game and you know how it's really going to turn out. Go ahead and have that job done. Find out what they're capable of. If you can, learn more about them and know ahead of time what your part of that role is. Like, what do they need as far as deliverables, art, resources, shipping, whatever it is, depending on the level of fulfillment or outsourcing you're having done, know exactly what you have to deliver to make sure they can do everything they need to do. And what I like to call it is the kind of the bus incident. If you get hit by a bus, if you get thrown under a train tomorrow, that the job goes to the customer and they never know. You should know what that takes from your outsourcing person or from your fulfillment person, so that you do your part of the job. Because some of the pain, no lie, some of the pain is entirely because you end up with an outsourcing person that is either not as skilled or not as careful as you are, and you get back product that's not good, or you get the classic box where you open it up and the top two look great and the rest of them don't look so good. What?
Not in the middle.
Was ever a good one on top? No, I mean, it's not just that. It's also sometimes the preparation we put into it, and we have to understand what those margins are so that we're not fooling ourselves into buying dirt cheap work. It's like when we're always talking about not racing to the bottom, we also can't then expect our outsourcing people to work for dirt and then think that we're going to get good results out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I talk about avoiding the pain. You talk about being hit by a bus. And then that's what I like about you, Eric, that your positive attitude. You call being hit by a bus an incident.
It is for the company.
And see, Terry, when you were saying I've had some great experiences, I've had some terrible experiences, I thought you were talking about our time out at bars, but
I was, and then I just segued right into this. But when you're contracting out work, outsourcing, I think the biggest problem I've run into is the first 5 jobs are great, and then job number 6 is just horrendous, and you're like, what happened? Well, we got really busy, and so we put XYZ crew on it instead, and I've had situations where I would send my quality control manager to their shop and spend a day with them, and so that they truly know our expectations while they're actually running our work, so that and that always made for a better relationship in the long run. That they truly understood this is exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah. Well, and the other part about that, Terry, is you probably need to also understand who you're doing business with. Is that what they do? Is that what their core business is? Or are they just trying to pick up some extra work to fill their downtimes? And like I said, when they get busy, are they going to push you to the back because your job's not as profitable as the other ones, or is this a distributor that happens to have some equipment in the back that thinks they can turn some stuff for you? You see that quite a bit, especially in sublimation, close to that. But you want somebody that actually does wholesale, because it's a whole different ballgame. What Eric was saying about understanding what your role is, I think that's really important too, because if you're going to them thinking, oh, they're going to do all this for me, and that's not what they do, you are going to have problems. It's like, do they do the art, or do they expect you to have art ready in the way that, and then what's that profit margin worth to you? You've got to, as the person buying the wholesaling, you have to bring some value to the game too. So understand what your role is, I think, is a really good key there. Eric, let's talk now that we've gotten all of Terry's negativity out of the way.
Wow, I think I came out innocent on that one.
let's get this glass half full.
Okay,
glass, Terry. Anyhow, so tell us about the upsides, though. I mean, where does this really shine? Why does this make sense for people?
Well, there's a couple of different upsides, and it's something that usually I like to talk about the opportunities for people who are seeking outsourcing fulfillment. A lot of that is handling jobs that are beyond your production capacity. As an embroiderer, I talk to lots of shops that have sometimes literally 3 or less heads. I mean, you're running a single head or 2 heads, that's it. If you're a small gift shop, outsourcing is a must. You're going to outsource. And if you're not, what you're going to be doing is the thing I've seen a lot of early embroiderers do, which is like a week of running ridiculous hours and punishing your machine till it dies, because they're just running the thing endless shifts, probably not maintaining it right. So the one thing is definitely handling jobs outside of your production capacity. Also, handling jobs that you may not have the equipment for. I mean, if you're an embroiderer in the wool, that's what you do. You are an embroiderer only. There's not a lot of shops like that. But let's say you have embroidery and heat press, but then you start getting a job that makes sense for screen, that makes sense for DTG. Find that partner that helps you do that and work with them, and you essentially just double the capacity of your shop. Plus, you end up where if you want to bring that in-house or you want to do it, you start out, you build a clientele that knows you as the front end, as the marketer. I mean, that's something that Marshall is saying. You're the marketing side of that. And later on, you can bring in, train up, work up your department to do that work while you're still selling that work and developing a market. So there's a lot of upside to that. Also, I like to cover the other side of this. Usually people always talk about, okay, great, this means that we're all just going to get out of the business. We're all just going to start selling stuff because we understand the front end, and that's where the future is. And I'm saying, well, great, but if there are people who are doing that, then there's also a future on the back end being the person who knows fulfillment and knows decoration very well. You can decide to not have a front end. And honestly, so many decorators, the primary problem I see with them in business is that they like to decorate. They like to make stuff. Well, me too. I like to get creative. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to get, into the thread for sure. I want to run a machine, but that's not necessarily making money. That's fun. That's fun for me because I'm creative. I want to make stuff. But the thing is, you can do that if you become a fulfillment person and you learn how to do that part of it very, very well. You either get your skill up, you are good for fast turnarounds, you're good for certain kinds of work, you get your niche, just like we always market niches. You can market a niche as a contract person. I know our shop did when we did contract work. And you just learn to do that fulfillment, especially if you go the extra mile, which is to learn the e-commerce, the shipping, the full fulfillment experience, the packaging, the QC, the stuff that goes into getting it to the door finished. Then you can be that back end and focus on the art and the absolute craft of doing this work of decorating, and let someone else be your salesperson. There's so many people who don't want to be in the business part of it. You still have to be in the business as far as running the business itself. But if you don't want to do as much of the marketing, style yourself as someone who's in this fulfillment area, and you can have more of that marketing, at least that front end customer marketing, done by the myriad people who want to use you as a contractor. Yeah. So I think there's upsides on both sides of the, once again, we have two more sides. We were talking about two sides of the fence, like the people using it, but now we have these two sides in the back end too. We're like, okay, you can take on either side of this. You can use outsourcing to increase your production, let you do things you couldn't do before, or you can build a new business being the person who does that fulfillment, especially if you go the full route where you can go all the way to the shipping and the warehousing and everything else.
Yeah. Well, you know, and Eric, when you say that, hey, some people love to get their fingers in the thread, and I'm kind of the same way. I really enjoy the production end of it. Mm-hmm. Just the opposite side of that too. There are people who are in this business who are just so good at marketing, but they just hate making the product, you know, and so there are those partnerships, and my experience really is, and I've certainly run shops where we were heavily involved in doing fulfillment, and it's awesome work, and you're basically dealing with just a handful of customers, but also out there in this world are so many companies that have to really ramp up production, and there's a window. Well, the example that I'll give you is from my experience is the college bookstore market. Every college bookstore on the planet does their inventory on June 30th because that's the lowest point of their inventory. Every college bookstore in America wants their product on July 1st. Every one of them, you know. Well, you only have so much production, and so from March till July, I would job a lot of that work out because it didn't make sense for me to have all the equipment, all the staff up to July 1st, because on July 2nd, I didn't have a lot for that extra crew to do all the way around till next March again. You know, I had plenty of work for my regular crew, but my add-on crew were those companies that did this overflow work for me.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing to think about too, and you know, where you're picking up those peaks and valleys, I think that's a really good point, Terry.
Exactly.
But if you also think about this from just a bigger picture perspective, you know, I mean, there's some couple of very large, I don't know, I guess you call them businesses out there that are basically created on this fact of that kind of bringing people together. Think of ASI and PPAI.
Oh, sure.
I mean, that's the promotional product industry. Most of the people selling promotional products don't even know how to make half of the stuff. I mean, they've got a catalog, they're buying, they're pointing to this and saying, I need 10,000 trinkets, you know, that kind of thing. But, you know, the ones that are really being successful understand that they've got to take that beyond that. They've got to add some value to it. So they've got to help their customers understand, hey, if you do this, if you personalize this, and, you know, the value added prospect to it. And I think that's really key, is to understand where you fit in the puzzle. We've talked on this show, seminars, Terry, things like that, about how the world is changing and how everybody's got their own business now. You know, my wife sells Rodan Fields. You know, you go to the local crafts fair and the gymnasiums are full of people that have their own little side businesses and all this other stuff. And the people that succeed are the people that understand where they fit in that process. You know, they might not do it all. They're going to understand where they can bring the most value and then stick to that and be really good at that and find their little niche and be really good at that. But like I said, if their niche is they're really good at selling into this little area, but like you said, they don't like, or they suck at, they don't have the right equipment to, to make, maybe you want to sell baby blankets and you got a desktop printer. Well, pressing that thing 7 times and trying to get something good out of it, A, is probably not going to happen. B, you'll never make any money doing it. So those kinds of things. Just really, truly understand where you fit in, but then find those partners and understand what their strengths are. So, if you're going to somebody that's really good at making stuff, but like you said, their websites, whatever, they're not really part of the front end. They don't do with the art, all that other stuff. And you go to them and you expect them to do those other things for you, you're going to be disappointed because it's not what they do. But if you can use them for what they do well, then you're going to be, in a good place. So this is, to me, is kind of more of the future of decoration in general. Is, I can't remember who it was, Terry, and this was a couple of years back. We talked to a gentleman that thought it was interesting. Oh, it was Steve, the screen print gentleman. Anyhow, he was like, I only screen print and I only do this little piece of it. And we were like, wow, we didn't expect that. But the more I think about that, the more it kind of like, okay, yeah. But now offer those other things. I think that's maybe where we're missing the boat. But anyhow, I'm off on a way long tangent. So.
No, I think it makes sense though, because we've got a couple different angles we're going at this thing, and I think there's no problem in repeating this because it takes everybody a little bit to catch on to these new movements. I mean, what we all see is we get the people who are out there kind of doom and gloom looking at Amazon buying a fleet of Cornettes, and they freak out. Because they're like, okay, here's this big company. They've got this big fleet of machines. They're going to come in and be this decorator, and we'll never be able to compete with them. The thing is, like you said, Aaron, that if everyone has something they're really good at, that doesn't always mean I'm really good at printing. It could also be I'm good at being detail-oriented and turning things around for people who can't handle the front end or don't have all the information together. I'm good at hand-holding customers for X reason. I'm good at creativity. I have an art staff that nobody else has. That can be it too. I mean, at my old shop, when we did a lot of that stuff, we were actually what I would call the contract printer of last resort. It's like people had gotten something done somewhere, they got the cheap guy to do it, and it sucked. Or embroidery, especially, somebody did it, it looked like junk. They had a difficult thing that everybody said no, they won't do it. Eventually, they're like, okay, I don't care about the money. I've promised this job out. It's okay for it to cost a little bit more. I just have to have it be quality, and I don't care if you have to do some experiments or weird stuff or whatever, which is stuff we were willing to do. We were willing to develop products. That was our niche. Our niche was, we will take the thing that everybody said no to, that they're scared of that job, and give it a go. Yeah. And that was a niche. And that's a niche that Amazon can't do and won't do. Exactly. It doesn't make sense for them.
No, they have no desire to do that.
Yeah. No, and that's, everybody asked me about the movie stuff. Why did we get the movie stuff? Is because we would, like, and I make this joke all the time, but it's absolutely true. When you have like a sweaty-fisted PA holding a shaky handful of money going, I need patches by 3 p.m. and I'm not leaving until I get them. They'll sit in your showroom and be like, I've tried. This is it. I need these patches. It has to happen. And we were the shop that went, yeah, we can do that. All in-house, we can do that. Sure. We've 20 custom patches digitized right now, run in 3 hours. Yes, we've got you. It's a weird market, but they were thoroughly willing to pay. They didn't ask prices at that point.
Well, exactly right. And the weirder the market, the more the higher the premium the market's worth.
Honestly, yeah, the less that it's served. And that even in this market that feels like it's something where big corporate entities are going to kill it, or it's always people with high amounts of production, you can do contract or fulfillment work for small entities. That makes sense. Even also company stores. People don't think about it, but if you run a company store site for a company and you're shipping directly to their end users, their employees, you're doing fulfillment right now. I would be surprised. There's people right now who don't know they're doing fulfillment already.
You didn't know what it was called.
They just didn't know what it was. If you're shipping nice packaged stuff directly, let's just say you take off. Right now, you're putting your sticker on the end of it. Don't put your sticker on it when you ship it out. Put the sticker of the company that is hiring you, and boom, you're in fulfillment. Yeah, like it's not exactly everything you need to know, but it's not as mystical as the word's going to make it sound.
Right, and you know, it's also. This is a broad spectrum. There's the contract decorator over here, and there's the full fulfillment house over here, and you could be anything in between there. The further you get towards fulfillment, the more money you're making, though. because of the services that you're offering. And the further you get that direction, the less that customer wants to mess with that product. They want to send you an email that says, John Smith in Denver, Colorado, send him a size large,
Yeah. Well, it goes even further. They want to have their website API into the decorator's website, and they don't touch anything. They allow somebody to make a purchase,
but the money, they don't touch anything but the money.
And that's just the money going into their pocket.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm oversimplifying it somewhat. There are these huge players out there, and I know there are contract decorators out there who are going, I do have a football field worth of machinery that I'm running, and I'm like, no, you guys exist and you're out there and you're doing incredible work. But what I'm saying is the idea of outsourcing isn't only for that.
Sure.
Like Terry said, it's a broad category.
Absolutely. And everybody's got their own strength, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. You were talking about those people that have that football field worth of equipment out there.
Sure.
But they've got to feed those things, so they're going to be aggressive. And if you really want to get great pricing and all that other stuff, and all these, that's perfect place to go. But at the same time, they might not be, I know for a fact that there's a couple of big houses out there that, especially during the fourth quarter in the holiday season, it comes off the end of the press and goes directly into a bag and out the door. Nobody has looked at it one bit. So, you got to understand where that person fits, or you can have the flip side of it where there's a bunch of people out there claiming to be, kind of that fulfillment piece. But really all they're doing is they're kind of a, what's a good word for it? They're basically bringing all the orders in and then sending them out to other printers too. So there's a lot of that goes on. So, that don't basically hitting the point home here that there's a spectrum here that you can get involved in. You just have to figure out what your strength is.
Well, isn't that the watchword then? It's developing the relationship and knowing who you're working with. But we shouldn't be doing that all the time. But specifically in this case, when you're literally going to let someone else's work speak for your company, this is the time to know somebody very well.
Good point. And anybody who's listening who wants to do this tomorrow, Google Ad Specialty, Google promotional products. And everybody in the tri-state area, call them tomorrow and say, I'm a contract screen printer, I'm a contract embroiderer, I'm a contract sublimator, I'm a contract whatever, and I have available production time. They're going to come and knock on your door because they're always looking for good decorators. Because as I always say on this show, lots and lots and lots of good screen printers, lots and lots and lots of screen printers aren't very many good screen printers. And I can say that about every decoration method. So, So those folks are desperately looking for people who will do good work, and they'll pay a premium for it.
And especially if you are competent and can handle it on your own. If you are self-motivated and you can handle a job when it gets dropped off that they know reliably on the other end they're going to get the expected result, you'll be golden with people. You just have to make sure you keep it up. And that's actually something in the companies I've worked in before. I've been on both sides of the supply and fulfillment coin, mostly custom stuff, but we've done a lot of contract as well as like e-commerce stuff. Definitely we're fulfillment agents. If you want to take my example from before, we're doing company stores. I really think there's a lot of opportunity there. But I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you think a shop should take into account if they want to start being that kind of production machine that's behind the scenes, that kind of unseen printer?
Yeah. Well, Terry, I'll take a stab at this first since I'm actually fairly involved with that right now and in my world, my quote unquote day job. It is a production machine behind the scenes. And to me, there's a couple of things that go into this. First and foremost, like we kind of beat this dead horse, but you got to figure out what you're good at. And then once you figure that out, you have to become the most efficient at that. So, you can say, I'm going to be a contract sublimator, but if you have a desktop sublimation machine, you're going to struggle because now you've got to find those efficiencies because your margins are going to be lower. So you have to be able to gain some efficiencies through mass production, through, difference of ink costs. If you're, so you're running a wide format printer, whatever those little pieces are, but you have to become uber focused on being super efficient in your production. So you can't, take a job and just go do that one job. You have to be able to take a group of jobs, gang those together, hammer them all out at one time in similar segments, and then be able to, kind of go to that next level. So, that's, I think one thing is be super efficient. The second thing, and this is just my own personal opinion, so we can argue this all day long, but I think everybody's going to agree with me here. I think you have to be more customer centric than anybody in the process. And the reason for that is your customer, you're the middleman. So that customer that is your customer is actually answering to another customer that you don't know anything about, you don't understand. So you have to make your assumptions on the side of, hey, I'm fighting for my customer, the person that's coming to me at all times, even though they might be dealing with a completely unreasonable customer on the other end. If you can support them and go on above and beyond for them, then like Erich said, you've got that relationship now. You've made that person understand that, hey, you know what? Yes, maybe that is too nitpicky for the process, or maybe, that's something that was out of our control, but it was also out of your customer's control. So you have to be able to stand up for them and help them out and take a few hits every now and again. Because I'll guarantee you, based on my personal experience, you take those hits, it will come back to you in a positive way, and you'll gain loyal customers that'll put up with a couple of errors here and there. Sometimes in that fight for better efficiency to get more profit, you screw up a few things here and there. It's just a part of the, when Christmas time rolls around in the sublimation industry, you'll see on videos around December, late November, early December time, any of the videos that we do this year, I will be very haggard looking, more haggard than normal. So anyhow, those are my takes.
That's
Terry,
true.
do you have anything to add?
Well, just a couple of things. Fulfillment can be a lot of things, and sometimes that customer out there that could use fulfillment, they don't know that they could use fulfillment. Sometimes it's maybe your job to say to them, I could take care of the rest of this for you. And here's an example. I was running production at a shop on the East Coast here many years ago, and heavily involved in fulfillment. And one of the things we did was, we would do long runs for people. It wasn't, a lot of people think fulfillment, well, you're sending one to Sally and one to Jim and one to Jane. But we, our customers were people like, there was a large wholesale electronics company. You had to be a contractor to walk through the door with your card to get in there. We printed nail aprons for them. And it was the name of this big company, and that owned all these stores. But then we would name drop that location. So we might one run might be 10,000 nail aprons, and then send 150 to Des Moines, and send 50 to Albuquerque, and you know how to spell that, right, Eric? And then send,
Only I do.
send 500 to Orlando, and so if you have that customer where they're buying that 5,000 or 10,000, and you could say to them, hey, now what do you guys do with these? Are you warehousing these, and you've got somebody out there on the floor counting these out? And because I've got somebody that could do that for you. And you might be surprised how many people would say, well, how much more is that going to cost me? And then they calculate what it costs to be paying that guy out there to be counting those out. And you could be surprised that there's a lot of opportunity out there in fulfillment. And also bear in mind too, there's going to be a little more to it than printer folding and put it back in a box. You're probably going to have a bagging machine. You're probably going to have some, certainly repacking into small boxes, that sort of thing, and shipping them out. But fulfillment isn't just, for that, the person at each Macy's store that sold the most perfume over the Christmas holiday, and they get a sweatshirt. it's a lot more than that. And I know multiple decorators out there in the screen printing world anyway, that this is what they do full time and very, very profitably.
Yeah. And actually, I have a strange use case that I saw in our shop. We did some fulfillment for events, but it was events tied to a specific organization. This particular one was a science event for students, and it was an international event. Part of the job was to also run the booth on site with the gear. So you would do fulfillment through a website all through the rest of the year, and it is individual sales, packaging, the whole bit. And part of that contract was to go ahead and be the end seller at their event, but we were selling everything at the same retail costs. So it's like they got a VIG out of it, they get a piece out of that, but they still, part of that was to have us at the event. The event did not charge us any sort of fees for being there. It was part of the service. So it ended up being a kind of fulfillment that included some mobile selling. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities people don't think of as being in that space.
Exactly.
But what opens you up for that? It's not just saying, I can do events, because there's tons of decorators out there who do events and do that well. But you might find out that by saying, and the rest of the year I can also ship direct and I have e-commerce sites, you might now have the edge on someone else who gets that big event every year. So it can also offer a competitive edge for a decorator if you're already in that, especially if you're already in that kind of space where you're doing contracting. If you learn to do fulfillment, and if you live somewhere, hey, Albuquerque's got pretty good rates on space, you can have warehousing. It's something that might be cheaper in your area than it is for someone else's. Then you can actually use that as a way to drive your business because your margins work for that. You can scale it better. So it's worth thinking about fulfillment as an edge as well as a goal in and of itself. It can also be somehow to get in the door for other types of work you might want to do.
Yeah, exactly right.
Okay. So is it weird that I've been trying to remember how to spell Albuquerque for a while here?
Have you been typing it on the screen?
Albuquerque.
You missed an R, but close enough. Google will get you there.
My wife lived there for a very short amount of time, and so anyhow, all right.
I'll try not to be bad to my hometown and say I'm sorry, like I often do.
It was gorgeous for visiting.
It's a lovely place. I like Albuquerque a lot, but there's what we always like to say about New Mexico. The state motto is the land of enchantment. The land of enchantment, right? It's magical. But a lot of people call it the land of entrapment. There's a lot of people who show up here and never leave, and they don't really know why. It's just comfortable. Kind of just it's a nice place. You're like, I don't know, it's not everything, but it's pretty good. All right. So I know some of the Albuquerque people out there.
That'd be a great bumper sticker.
I'm sure it's already been done.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
It's pretty good.
It's not all the stuff you saw on Breaking Bad. It's not all that. Some of it.
All right. Well, a couple quick shout outs to some live viewers here. Mayra Roland said hello, and Ray Weiss of SGIA is checking in too. Ray is a fantastic guy. He works very closely with Johnny for skills and is on the road. In fact, last I saw, I believe he was out doing a Rap Like a Pro event in California, I believe. So Ray is a color guru too. He really knows a lot about color management and stuff like that. So.
Hey, E. Rich, I know that's your rap name. He's talking about a different kind of rap competition. I just want you to know.
I knew being on the show was definitely going to happen.
It was going to happen. You're going to look up there on the screen, and all of a sudden there's going to be a hyphen in there.
I wish I could change that.
I know.
All right. Okay, well, let's take a quick break here, guys, and hear a word from our sponsor, Equipment Zone, and then we'll come back and wrap it up with some events and 5 things.
Our show today is sponsored by Equipment Zone. Go to equipmentzone.com for the Epson F2000 direct-to-garment printer. Equipment Zone is the only Epson reseller who sends a technician to every customer location for training. This is an absolutely free visit to your location. Equipment Zone is also the manufacturer of the #1 pre-treat machine in the industry, the Speed Treater TX. With no compressor and no special tanks, the Speed Treater TX is the easiest and most consistent pre-treat machine available worldwide. Go to equipmentzone.com for the Epson F2000, the Speed Treater TX, and for all your DTG inks and supplies. That's equipmentzone.com. That's equipmentzone.com. All right. Well, we appreciate Equipment Zone being our longtime sponsor, our very first sponsor, and they've stuck with us through many a year, Aaron.
Thick and thin.
Through thick and thin. And a reminder that, the commercials for the Epson F2000 Equipment Zone started shipping the F2100s the last week in March. So those machines are available and waiting for you
to get on there. Yeah, we'll have to get on their guide to record a new commercial for them.
I know.
Right. What the heck is going on? All right.
All right, Aaron. What kind of events you have coming up?
Well, the main things for me are DAX Chicagoland here coming up. So I'm pretty excited to kind of wrap up the trifecta of DAX events with digital marketing, growing your business, social media, and email marketing. That's going to happen Friday, April 27th at 12:30 p.m. So come and check that out. And then Terry and I will be doing finding new niche markets because you're a digital decorator right after that at 2:20 on Friday the 27th. So get signed up for that. And just a quick shout out, I am actually bringing my wife with me, and she will be sitting in on both seminars. So I will be extra nervous. And no. Eric, I know you've got some stuff coming up. What's on your schedule?
Absolutely. Once again, Chicagoland DAX. This is a place to be, folks, because we're all going to be there teaching. Yeah. I'm doing the night shift. If this is Friday, it's happening tonight if you're listening to it now. So embroidery digitizing designs from concept to completion at DAX is Chicagoland Friday, April 27th from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's sold out right now. Do check at the front and see, because every once in a while we can open up a few more seats if the room's good for it. But all three this year have been sold right out and early. So do check at the front desk. You probably won't be able to get in line on the website if you're checking now. Also, I'll be presenting the new version 8 release for DecoNetwork. It is finally fully going to go live with our marketing manager, Victor Marquez, and I will be presenting that on Monday the 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern. I'd love to see everybody there if you're interested in what's going on in the DecoNetwork land.
Excellent.
Super.
So is there going to be opportunity for questions on that event there on Monday?
Yeah, I think that event's mostly going to be a launch event. We'll do a little Q&A, but a lot of it will probably be done after the fact, and we're not holding just this one event. This is the big event for everybody who hasn't really gotten to see the new version 8 stuff. It's going to be able for people to really kind of have somebody walk them through it. Victor's going to do the crazy thing I'm doing at DAX, and he's going to go live and show some people how version 8 works. So
wow.
Just wish him luck, and we'll get him out in front of everybody so you can see what we're working on, we have been working for a while.
Well, you've made the mistake of sending me the email to invite me to that thing, and I'm going to sign up and give you a hard time. No, I'll be nice.
That's all right. I'll just pass it on to Victor. So, Victor, get ready. I'll be asking you lots of questions on Aaron's behalf.
Perfect. None of them relating to anything about DecoNetwork. So.
No, we'll just talk about your personal self and your presentation styles going.
Any of those, any professional seminar speakers out there, when you said I'm doing this live, they all just cringed just a little bit.
Yeah, no, the live digitizing is a little scary. I've done just a little bit of it. Mostly it's some live replay stuff during the digitizing course, but I have had some technical issues. So far, nobody's really complained too badly. It's been good. Good marks from everybody, but yeah, it's scary.
We hear two regular guys who have no experience with technical difficulties. So.
Never once.
Never happened.
Terry, what about you? What do you got coming up here?
Absolutely. My DAX seminar in Chicago, Tinley Park, is going to be equipment and supplies for a new screen printer, what you need to buy for success. That's going to be Friday, the same day, April 27th at 10:20 a.m. And then, of course, Aaron, you and I are going to speak together. And then I'm going to blow right out of there and head to the airport because I'm heading to Cancun early on Saturday morning to attend my son's wedding. So staying for a few days after that. And May 3rd at 10:30, I'll be presenting the intro to DTG and making money at the ISS show in Houston. I'm actually going straight from Cancun to Houston. So I'm packing for 3 events all at the same time. Let's see, my all-day free Epson F2000, F2100 event. It's free. It's going to be at on May 10th, the day before NBM Portland, Oregon. And if you want some information about that, it's at the NBMshows.com. And then on June 2nd and 3rd, The DTG Academy is going to be at Equipment Zone in Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. For anybody who doesn't know, right outside of New York City, so you can shoot over to the city and have some fun there at the same time. My complete screen printing business course with Atlas Screen Supply is going to be in Chicago, June 9th and 10th, and all my upcoming events are going to be on my website, terrycombs.com, under tour dates.
Wow, that was not a couple of things, was it? That is a lot of miles, man. That is a lot of miles.
You know, I've flown 26,000 miles already this year. But hey, we're well into April.
Wow. So if you wonder, Terry's just a little tiny bit busy. Not a lot, though. He's fine. Don't worry about him. As always, as we get done talking about our events, we like to leave you guys with some actionable tips, tricks, and bits of wisdom we or the guests have learned over the years in the industry. And here's our ever popular segment, It's 5 Things. So today our 5 things are brought to you by Terry Combs. Terry, you're up.
My 5 things, the 5 levels of training in your business, because, you know, we talk a lot about training, but it's not just training. There are levels of the training we're going to do with our staff. Number 1, the basics of one's assigned daily tasks. So that's that brand new employee and teaching them how to do their job. Number 2, growing in knowledge to improve upon those tasks. So in other words, learning more about the job that you're assigned to do. Number 3, cross-training to cover when staff is out on vacation, out sick, snow days. I've heard about snow days. I see it on TV. Number 4, learning other jobs beyond cross-training for potential advancement. And number 5, personal self-improvement skills for growth in work and in your life. So those are the 5 areas of training that we should all be involved in our businesses.
Awesome. Great 5 things, Terry. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we have come to the close of another show, guys. I would like to thank our guest and show producer, Erich Campbell, with DecoNetwork. You can also find Erich at erichcampbell.com. We also like to thank our sponsors, the Specialty Graphic Imaging Association and Equipment Zone. We appreciate your support.
Yep. And on next week's show, we'll have Marshall Atkinson back with us. He's going to come back and do a deep dive with us on his Pricing for Profit book. So we're going to drag as many great nuggets out of him as he can. You'll still want to go buy his book, but we're at least going to get you excited about it and give you some things to whet your appetite until you have a chance to read his full book. So I'm looking forward to having Marshall on back next week. And
all right.
Sometime in May.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, until then, Erich Campbell, he's Aaron Montgomery. I'm Terry Combs, and we are
the two regular guys. Thank you for listening to Two Regular Guys. Check out our website at tworegularguys.com. That's the number 2, regularguys.com. You can also interact with us over at our Facebook page, facebook.com/tworegularguys, or send us a tweet, twitter.com/tworegularguys. And we have a YouTube page. You can find all that from our website, tworegularguys.com. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to spending some time with you again next week.